I proceed?
You may.
Good morning. Can you state your name and spell your last for the record?
Certainly. My name is Reese Warren. Warren is spelled W-A-R-R-E-N.
What do you do for a living, Dr. Warren?
Well, currently I'm the professor and chair of the Department of Linguistics at Midland State University. I also consult closely with the Midland State Police Academy in lecturing both their cadets and seasoned officers on proper investigative techniques when gathering testimony during undercover operations.
What is a linguist?
Well, linguistics is the study of languages and conversation.
What education do you have that allows you to hold this position?
I received my doctorate, my PhD in linguistics from Georgetown University in our nation's great capital, and I received my bachelor's in linguistics from the University of North Carolina in my home state, and I consider myself a devout fan of the Tar Heels.
What experience do you have in your field, Dr. Warren?
Well, I've published 37 peer-reviewed articles that have appeared in both linguistics and psychology journals. I've also written a textbook, How to Talk to Alleged Criminals, which is actually standard text at many police academies, including Midland State Police Academy.
What qualifications do you have that allow you to hold this position?
Well, I've also testified in 23 other cases in which the defense has alleged entrapment.
How are you involved in today's case?
Originally, I was retained by the defense for a flat rate of $10,000 in order to provide an analysis determining whether or not the actions of the Midland State Police Department rose to the level of entrapment. After I provided them with my services, they told me I would no longer be needed and I would not be testifying in court. At that time, I was approached by the state and offered and asked to testify on behalf of the prosecution here today, which I am doing so for an additional $500.
Now, did you use reliable facts and data when coming to your analysis?
Yes, absolutely. I use the best practices that have been laid out and agreed upon by linguists everywhere in structuring your conversation during an undercover operation when you are talking to a suspect.
Okay, and what were these facts and data specifically?
Well, the facts and data that I was supplied for my analyses were, I was supplied with a table, the March 31st conversation between undercover officer Mickey Keenan, casino owner Avery Bancroft, and her executive assistant Corey Hyde. I was also supplied with a March 30th email exchange between Officer Keenan and Corey Hyde, as well as both the affidavits of Corey Hyde and Mickey Keenan.
Is that all the facts and data you had?
Those are the facts and data that I was supplied for my analysis.
Okay. Now, what strategies did you use to come to your analysis?
Well, there are 4 main steps that you should take when you are structuring your conversation with a suspect during an undercover investigation. And these are the best practices that have been agreed upon by linguists. First, when you're structuring your conversation, you should ask open-ended questions in hopes that the suspect you're talking to incriminates themselves. Then you should begin to drop subtle hints of criminal activity without expressly stating that activity in hopes that the suspect latches onto these and further incriminates themselves. Now, if the criminal conduct has already occurred, ask the suspect to tell a story in which they further incriminate themselves. And should these 3 methods fail, ask a clear-cut, unambiguous question about whether or not the suspect is willing to engage in criminal activity.
Did you use reliable principles and methods while coming to your analysis?
Absolutely. These are the principles and methods that I teach to both my students at the university and cadets and officers at the police academy. It'd be a little hypocritical of me if I did not apply them during my line of work.
That is true, Dr. Warren. Did you apply these methods and principles reliably to the facts and data of today's case?
Yes, I did.
And how did you begin your analysis?
Well, I began with a simple transcript analysis of the tape of the March 31st conversation, during which I discovered that, or I came to the conclusion that Officer Keenan and Corey Hyde did act within those they constructed their conversation in line with those best practices that I've laid out before you.
And what did you, I'm sorry, 1 second, Dr. Warren.
Not a problem.
So, what other strategies did you use to help you reach your analysis?
Yes, well, I also examined the transcript and the emails for conversational strategies that have been shown to induce criminal conduct and otherwise unwilling suspects. In other words, strategies that law enforcement officers have used in the past to make innocent people commit crimes.
And what did you find in regards to these strategies?
Well, I focused my analysis on the most important of these strategies, the ones that are most important and most widely used. Those being speaking on behalf of the suspect, interrupting the suspect, using ambiguous language, controlling the flow of conversation, manipulating the tape, inaccurately restating the target's answers, ignoring unwilling conduct from the suspect, and outright lying to the suspect.
And could you explain these strategies?
Yes, during the course of my analysis, I discovered 4 potential strategies that they used that were potentially used. Those being speaking on behalf of the suspect, interrupting the suspect, there was potential manipulation of the tape, excuse me, as well as the coaching of informants.
Great, and again, I'm sorry, Dr. Moore, you're so intriguing. What about the manipulation of the tape?
Well, I examined the tape for a couple factors that would involve manipulation. First, I examined the tape for signs that it had stopped recording and started recording, or whether or not it had been recorded all in one take. During my analysis, I determined that it had. However, I also noticed that there was a moment of static on the tape during a potentially crucial moment. Now, I was unable to determine whether or not this was used purposely to hide information, or it was just simply an accident as a byproduct of something like shuffling around in your seat. So it is not certain whether this was a purposefully employed strategy.
And what about speaking on behalf of the target?
Yes, there was one point where Corey Hyde spoke on behalf of Avery Bancroft to mention sweetening the pot.
And the last strategy that you stated, interrupting the target.
Well, there were two cases of interruption on this tape. The first was when, excuse me, Corey Hyde interrupts Avery Bancroft and asks, "Who do we need to make happy?" after Keenan had stated, "You need to make everybody happy."
Earlier, I'm sorry, continue.
Absolutely. The second interruption was simply Officer Keenan interrupting to provide a date.
Earlier you said you were retained in 23 other cases. Were these strategies used throughout all of them?
In the cases which I have testified on behalf of the defense, these strategies were used far more egregiously than I saw today here, in the case today. A lot of the strategies that I saw were used in limited scope. For instance, the coaching of the informants during the March 30th email exchange. Excuse me, during the March 30th email exchange, there was Officer Keenan instructed Corey Hyde to provide certain topics to bring up during the conversation. Topics like sweetening the pot. Now, yes, this is coaching of an informant. However, this coaching was in order to construct the witness, to structure the conversation in line with those best practices as I laid out before. So it was used in a limited scope.
Is that all that you have come to realize?
No, so as I said before, my conclusions were that Officer Keenan did structure his conversation in line with those best practices as agreed upon by linguists. And I was also able to come to the conclusion that their use of conversational strategies was very limited in scope. So the conversation did not appear to be overly controlled by law enforcement.
Thank you, Dr. Warren.